Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Finding the Alternative. I'm your host, Adam, 10-year former member of the Salt Lake City Zion, World Bench Society Church of God, for those of you that don't know what Zion is. Today, I have a special guest with me, Quincy. Quincy is a really good friend of mine, really good person, and he kind of was the one guiding me there for a little bit before I started getting baptized. And I remember back in the day, before I was Brother Adam, I would put Quincy off all the time and not answer his phone calls. And then finally he convinced me after vigorous Bible studies and many delayed appointments to get involved in the WMSCOG. So yes, I do kind of blame you. I'm joking. No, but I'm going to turn the time over to Quincy on a serious note. Let him introduce himself for those who do not know him. Obviously, those that do know him, no introductory is needed, but those that don't know, tell us a little bit about you.
How's it going? My name is Quincy, and I was a member for 13 and a half years. I got baptized in October 2009, started in the San Diego church, um, and I ended up coming to Salt Lake City. And so I was in it for 13 and a half years, and I left 2.5 years ago in May 2023. Um, and yeah, I'm just here to share my story. Um, when I left 2.5 years ago, I just quietly removed myself from this group. I didn't say anything bad. I never tried to reach out to members, persuading them or convincing them to leave. I just moved on with my life and just stuck to myself, and that was it. Um, and
And
then,
to be fair, I can actually vouch for that because July of 2024, I remember I reached out to you to talk to you about some things. And I remember meeting with you, and I was at a very vulnerable state. And I can vouch that at that time, Quincy didn't say anything about the church, like in a negative light. He didn't say anything bad about the overseer, anything bad about really anybody. And it was very cordial and he was very polite. And obviously, I continued for another 3 months. So that's proof that Quincy never did anything that you would consider slander. But I just want to throw that in there because I can vouch for that.
yeah, and that was something that I always told myself is that if a member, like a current member that was going still, reached out to me, I would meet with them and I would be willing to listen, but I wouldn't try to convince them or persuade them to leave because when it comes to leaving, it has to really come from you, not from someone trying to push you out. It really just has to come like all from you
For
if
sure.
you decide to leave. Um, So yeah, like Adam said, he, reached out to me and, for so long I didn't look at videos, I didn't do any research. For the first 7, 8 months, I literally didn't look on anything, like on Great Light Studios, or all the channels that exist now. Um, but it wasn't until maybe 8 months after I left, I started listening to the podcast playing in traffic. And so I was just listening to those, and then I started watching interviews from Great Light Studios and just hearing these stories just come out about how members are treated and their experience in this group. It was really hard, but despite hearing all these stories, I still kept silent. I still kept my mouth shut. I didn't go on any public platform. Like I said, my intention is not to, you know, make, the church look bad or whatever, but I just, at that time, I just, silently just listened to these stories and, they were very triggering just because every time they would mention something, it would trigger a memory. Um, so it was really hard. And then on top of that, just hearing stuff about what was said about me, how I was outed by the, former overseer of Salt Lake City, just things like that, and despite those things, I still kept silent. And then you started doing your channel, your videos, and then, how many times did you ask me to do an interview?
Am I allowed to say that on
Yeah.
here?
Like, you approached me, and you asked me, obviously not forcing me, but just, kind of trying, hinting, if I should do an interview or not. And you were very, very um kind about it. Like, in no way did you push me at all. And um so finally last month, right in November, I was finally, I just felt like it was the right time. I've heard so many things and, people having bad experiences. And I just thought, well, I spent 13 and a half years and I've seen many things and heard many things. So I just, I kind of felt compelled to share my story and share my experience. So yeah, so then I told you, I would do it this month. Um, And then you posted it on your, on your on your channel,
Yeah.
and I guess some members found out about it, and by this time, I had not heard from any current member at all. The last communication I had with a current member was in June of 2023, and that was it. No one ever tried to, um, you know, call me. I mean, I wouldn't say never. There was actually a couple members that say, "Hey, how's it going?" But it was very, very short, very, very brief. That was it. But I never,
Yeah.
we never followed up with each other or anything. But that was it, and that only happened maybe 3 times. That was it since I left. But anyways, you post on your channel that I'm gonna be coming out, and you didn't specifically name me, but you just said a very good friend of mine, an assistant overseer. So there's only been one assistant overseer in the Salt Lake City, in the history of Salt Lake City Church. That was me. So I get a call from my friend, and this isn't just any friend. This was somebody who I knew back in San Diego. We were both baptized in San Diego. I think him a year before me. Um, he ended up going to one of the, San Diego branches, and then I ended up going there. So we got really close there. Uh, And anyways, we both ended up here in Salt Lake City. And then
Yeah.
even still, we were working very closely and whatnot. And he was one of the very few people that did meet up with me shortly after when I left in of 2023. So our last meeting communication was in June 2023, and that was it. So well, here's the story. Okay, I'll start with what's being told now because
Okay.
there's a lot. I was supposed to do this interview in 1 week. But I decided to do it today. I called you today, like, hey, let's do the interview because
Yeah.
I need to set the record straight. I need to take back this narrative that's being put out about me. So that's why we're doing it today. So,
Yeah.
anyways, what's being told is that I reached out to this member who I haven't seen or spoken to in 2.5 years. Um, but then he's telling members that when I reached out to him, I was saying like in our text conversation that I was going to be coming out on a video and then I was going to be sharing all of these grievances that I have about this church. Um, and then he said like I was telling him why I left the church and whatnot. So this is what he's telling to the members. Maybe it's just one member, maybe it's many members. But anyways, this is what he's putting out there that I reached out to him first. But that is not the case. Um, how it actually happened is he reached out to me because, like I said, you posted on your channel that I was going to be coming out. So he reached out to me last week on Wednesday. Um, and of course, my assumption is, he's taking preemptive measures to try and discredit me. That's why he's doing this because, he just wants to put that out there before the interview comes out. But what happened was he reached out to me, right? Um, and I'm sure you'll put it on screen, right?
Yeah. I'll put
But
I'll put the messages on screen.
yeah, so when you look on our messages, our last communication was in June 21st of 2023. This is just to show we were actually setting up our meeting,
Yeah.
that time just because I just left. So he was meeting up with me. So you can see, there's some exchanges. There's the first one, there's the second screenshot, sends some GIFs. He
Yeah.
actually says, hey, I actually say, hey, thanks. Thanks again. You're a good friend. No worries, man. Or no worries. You're more than friends. We're family. That was the last communication we had. And then you can see right below it is Wednesday. That's him. He's reaching out to me, right? His first message to me is just a link to a YouTube video of friends, because it was talked about it. And he says, I saw this and thought of you. So I respond on the third screenshot right below that. I say, hey, what's up? How have you been? Good, bro. Living the dream. How about you? How's everything? I say, just catching up on the last 13 and a half years of my life. LOL. Just kidding, but not really. I just,
I could hear the pain in your voice when you said
yeah,
that.
I've just been living and trying to do normal day-to-day activities and reconnecting. Haha. No, that's good for you. Really. I'm happy for you. You definitely deserve it. When we gonna meet up and eat again? There's a new ramen place that opened. And then I say, I have to see my availability. Um, and the last thing he says is, all good, bro. Let me know. I give a thumbs up. That is the extent of our conversation. So there's no mention of, well, you can see I didn't reach out to him, right? The very last thing the last message we had was in June 21st of 23, and then he reaches out to me on Wednesday. So he's telling everyone that I reached out to him first, and then I was, saying I'm gonna come out with a video and I'm gonna, share my grievances about the church and I'm gonna share about why I left the church. But look at the screenshots. There's nothing there. It's just a hey, how's it going? Let's catch up. Let's go grab a bite to eat.
And
That's it.
one should ask, like, why? Why make up this narrative? Why, like what is the end result in, because obviously texts are forever, right? Screenshots are forever.
Right.
So I'm just trying to figure out, like, what is the end game of changing the narrative to something it's not? And kind of a bigger question on my mind is like, okay, if they're willing to change the narrative about something as simple as just a text exchange of, hey, let's get together and let's go have lunch or whatever, from what it sounds like, into something completely, almost like don't want to say like defamatory against you, but just it's a completely false narrative.
Right.
So if they're willing to take an innocent text message like this and change it into some false narrative that it's not, you have to ask the question, okay, well, what else would they do? What else are they not sharing truthfully? What else are
Exactly.
they hiding? What else are they spinning? Like, you as a WMSCOG member, I'm talking to you, the members that are watching this inevitably, is if they're willing to change the narrative of something as simple as this text and innocent as this text message, you really have to ask yourself, to what extent will it stop? To what extent will they just be truthful about? Just something to think about.
Exactly. And that's their tactic. They're gonna, any member that leaves, they're gonna try to discredit them in some way, just so the members will have this preconceived notion, that, they're gonna say all this stuff, on top of, already as when somebody leaves or speaks out, we already have this preconceived notion, oh, they're a betrayer of God. Um, they've taken on the side of the, to be on the
They're
side of the
Judas,
wicked. Yeah, exactly.
Demas, dogs
Um,
returning to their vomit, all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. So all of that is already instilled in our minds when we're members, when
for
somebody
sure.
leaves and speaks out. So somebody who's left 2.5 years ago has never said anything, never went on a public platform, um, finds out that I am going to come on, but then he goes on to, discredit me and spin a story that I reached out to him and told him I was going to be coming out and saying all these things. So that was the first thing I wanted to address in this video, just because this happened just within the past few days. So all this is
Right.
very, very current, and I'm sure members are talking about it. Um, so it's there. It's you didn't. It's right here in the very beginning of the video.
Yeah,
You
and
can
not only
already see
that,
it.
but what are you doing on my channel?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
why are you reading my posts? Why are you watching my videos? Like, didn't Mother say that the internet, the YouTube, it's the tree of knowledge of good and evil? So, again, WMSCOG
Exactly.
members, unless you think this is coincidence, right? Unless you just think a day after I posted that, he just happened to just think of you and come across that video and send it to you. That is a, I guess, a possibility. You know, I
Right.
don't think it's a very plausible possibility, but it seems that the evidence points to him reading my post, being on my channel, which that's eating from the tree, whoever
Yeah.
you are, and then reaching out to you like the next day or within hours or whatever the case is. Like Whimscog members, why is it okay for some to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and why is it okay for others to not do so? So again, why are you eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? But
Exactly.
anyway,
Yeah, and I actually confronted him about it through text, and I said, "Hey, this is what I'm hearing. You reached out to me, and I honestly thought you wanted to catch up." Even on the back of my mind, okay, he probably saw that I was going to be coming out, but of course, he denies it and saying, I never said that. I don't know what you're talking about. They're manipulating the
naturally.
story." Um, we have information is getting out and it's coming to me. So this person denied it. I let the overseer know, the current overseer know. And of course, he takes on the side of this member and says, I don't know where you're getting your information from. I don't know who your sources are. Is this a person in the church? Were they there when it happened? He's asking all these questions. And I
How
didn't.
about how about overseer? You ask your own members.
Exactly.
Because we're
Exactly.
slanderers, right? Why are you even asking us in the first place? You think we're going to tell you the truth? Isn't that what slanderers don't do? But you're asking us for the proof and the facts? Like,
Right.
give me a break,
So
man. Follow your
there
own narrative. Like, good grief.
I wanted to put that out there just because, like I said, this is currently going on right now. And for the members who are watching, just wanted you to know that that's not the case. You can see through the text uh screenshots that are on the screen. Um yeah, so I just wanted to put it out there. But it just goes to show what this organization does. They'll try to discredit you in any way.
And I want to say this to the Whimscog members and to the ex members. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that an ex pastoral staff assistant overseer is actually telling his story, because a lot of times the title holders that speak out, they're not pastoral staff assistant overseers. So to my knowledge, this is the first time that an assistant overseer pastoral staff has ever spoken out. So this is actually something to be really taken seriously, you know. Just like, they could play me off as just like, oh, I was just a unit leader, which I was, right? I mean, it is what it is. But you were behind the scenes. You worked closely with Eddie for years behind the scenes. You were a deacon. You had baptism authority. You were full time gospel work, constantly in the church, living at the church. So, I mean, no one probably knows better than you as far as the Salt Lake behind the scenes goes. Really, we don't know. You're the only one that probably has that information.
Yeah, being a pastoral staff assistant where you do see many things that most members don't see. Um, so yeah, I just hope I can offer a different perspective, a different view on, what goes on in this organization. Um, but I mean, yeah, I don't know where to start. I mean, like I said, I I was living in San Diego uh when I was approached. I was going to San Diego State and I was approached by he was a brother at the time. And I was actually at that time I was looking to, kind of reconnect with God. I was always a Christian when I was younger. I would go to church. But then in junior high and high school, college, you kind of, you do what a normal teenager would do, what a normal college student would do, so I did the whole, college experience and I was just looking to reconnect to God and, I was approached and obviously, Like, I thought, "Oh, this is a sign, from God. It has to be the truth," because I actually it's funny because I did it was weird. I like, literally the week before I was approached, I kinda was like I said a prayer to God. I was like, "Hey, God, if you're real, like, show me a sign," And you hear these stories a lot. I've heard so many stories of
Tons.
members saying this, and, like, when it does happen, you're like, "This is a sign from God." So off the bat, right away, I was fully convinced this has to be like a sign from God. So I went, uh, you know, I dove right in and I ate everything up. Like, I made myself available as much as I could. I was baptized within less than a week, so
Really?
yeah, I met my branch, the one who um approached me. We met at a Starbucks or something like that. And then I think we studied, one more, we studied another time. And then he invited me to attend the third day worship service. And, when I attended, I didn't know anything because everything was still new, but I was so eager to learn. And it was funny because in that service, like, I don't remember. All I remember was that it was about the tree of life. That was it. But what really caught my attention was when in the closing prayer, the member would, go up and say the prayer. And then this member, they kept saying the name An Sung Hong's name. And then they kept saying 37 years in the prayer. So that's when I, went up to my branch and I said, "Hey, well, he asked me like, you have any questions? How did you like the service? And I said, yeah, like, who's this Unsung Hong? Like, they can't, what is that? And like, what's his 37 years?
What is that? Not who
Yeah,
is
what is
that?
that?
What is
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so he's like, "Oh, you want to learn about it? All right, let's go upstairs." So we went
Oh boy.
upstairs and studied late in the night. And 10:30, I got baptized. And the next 13 and a half years, I just
Never
devoted my
looked back.
whole life. Yep. I devoted my whole life to this organization for 13 and a half years. And
Dang.
it was quite an experience. And yeah, it's just,
Talk
there's so
about.
much to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, and, you know, like, like I said, when I came in, I was so eager and I was just willing to learn. And they take advantage of that. When they see a member who just wants to learn and soaking everything up, they will like exploit that and they will try to like raise you up to be, you know, like this super gospel worker.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what happened. I just kept, like I said, I kept making myself available. Um, and even when, the first like month I was switching off with my branch because he was teaching me, but then he had to like he couldn't um study with me. So I was studying with the youth group leader at the time. He was a deacon. And so I was studying with him as well. So for like just for 2, 3 months I was studying with both of them and I was taking everything in and I believed it right away. Um and yeah, that's one of the things they do is they exploit what you have, whether that's like an eagerness to learn or whether that's like some talent that you have. That happens a lot. If you have a talent or a skill, they will exploit it. And I think that's how they really draw members in, like integrating them into the organization.
Give them
S-
something to do.
Yep. So that they're fully invested in it and that they
Yeah,
feel like,
you're good at construction. Well, we need to tear out this building and rebuild it.
yep,
You're good at electrical. All right, well, we need all these different light fixtures hooked up and synced up. You're good at audio and recording and all that kind of stuff. You have your own equipment. Oh, donate it and let's use you as the audio booth guy. Or, I mean, the list is endless, but they hide it under the guise of blessings, right? Like, oh, you're going
exactly.
to be blessed
Yes.
so much in heaven, right? Like, Father and Mother are smiling upon you right now. You're going to be so blessed in heaven.
Yeah.
But the reality is,
They're
it's
just
just in
drafting
my
you in. They're
yeah,
just
in my
drafting you in
opinion,
so you
it's
can't leave.
exploitation
It
too,
is.
because
Yep.
there is no compensation. Like, I could see, like, okay, once in a while, right, you go to the church, right? You go, let's say every Sunday, you want to do something, right? You want to sing in the choir or whatever, right? Like, cool. I mean, that's really fine. But we're talking like heavy duty work, like
Yeah.
tearing out stuff, adding additions, redoing bathrooms, redoing all this kind of stuff, roof, all that. I mean, remember when we had to go put on harnesses and scrape off the roof?
Oh my wow, yeah, see, you just triggered a memory
Sorry
of
about
what
that.
happened. I
But you know what I
almost
mean? Like,
fell off the roof, but
yeah,
I had a
that's what I'm
harness, but
saying.
I yeah.
Power of the Passover though,
Yeah.
right? Because
Right?
let me tell you, let me clue in the listener here. Okay, so in Salt Lake City, Zion, like I'll put the address, and you can Google the roof of this building. Okay, it's like the weirdest roof because it's like you go up there and it's flat, but then it kind of goes up a little bit more. So it's flat, kind of goes up a little bit more. And if I remember correctly, like just there's
Just
like
goes
a
down,
bridge.
like an
Yeah, it just
angle.
goes straight
Yep.
down basically at a very steep angle. We had to basically like get harnesses and go up on the roof and have these little shovels and
And
just like
take off the
and
shingles.
start but it's like this steep,
Yep.
like it's crazy steep.
It was so yeah. No, honestly, I completely forgot about that, Adam. I honestly felt like I was about to fall off, and I never
But
said anything because I didn't wanna look like I was scared or weak, so I just was
dude, I
like,
was
"Oh,
terrified.
crap," like
You should have seen me because I'm terrified of heights. So I was
Yeah.
just like barely over the side, just like, oops.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not. But
Um,
again, this
they
is what they
they
do.
they they thrive on free labor. That's what they do. And that's unfortunately, that's what happened to me, like I said, exploiting your skill or talent. So, what happened, like, when I was in San Diego, um, when you start moving up, you start you join the choir. That's kind of like the beginning, right? You
Yeah.
join the choir, and so they asked me like, "Oh, do you wanna join choir?" I was like I said no, but then I said, "I do play the piano, so I'll play the piano because I don't wanna be standing up in front of everyone and, have them looking at me." And because of that, I played for years for services because I said I play the piano. So it all started with being the piano. It first started with being the piano player for the choir, and then I ended up being the piano player for the services, like the entire service. Um, and so that was took up a lot of time, having to learn the songs. Um, And then on top of that, I became unit leader, so I was doing both. So I had the whole choir, and then I ended up getting into multimedia. So, I was making the banners, making the flyers. Um, we had at San Diego, we had this like we had remember remember the Elohist, how we have the Elohist? It's like a monthly newsletter of all the fragrances and whatnot from
That was
members
like
all around the
$3 and no one read.
yeah. Yeah.
But you felt bad if somebody
I was doing the banners, the flyers. We did our own like our own version of Eloise in San
yeah.
Diego. And I was like super busy with that. So I was doing multimedia, I was doing choir, I was a unit leader, all these things. Um, and yeah, you just get grafted into all these activities as much as you can. And as you said before, they're disguised as blessings. And they just do it so you could all your time and money is devoted to this organization, and it takes up your whole life, your whole personal life, so you have no life outside of the church.
Yeah. And I think that's another way of, in a way, isolation because you don't have as
Yeah,
much time to spend with your other family. You don't have as much time to spend with friends if you have any at this point, or maybe if you want to get, like a second job or go to school or something. A lot of times the emphasis is so much on what you can do for the church, not what the church can do for you. It's what you can
right.
do for the church. And again, like I said, if you want to play the piano for service, that's fine. If you want to sing, but right, like the church also needs to recognize that these people have lives. They have a livelihood. They have other, things in their life they need to take care of. And so there has to be a balance. And the balance in the WMSCOG is it's what causes you to go. broke in some cases. You don't have friends, you're isolated, you feel alone, you feel depressed because it's just work, 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 work for these invisible blessings that guess what? You can only cash in when you die, right? And you go to
Right,
heaven and then
right,
it's like, oh yeah, all your work, here's this mansion or whatever. But it's like, what if it's not though? What if it's wrong? What if it's you're doing it for the wrong reasons and you don't get that and you just wasted your whole life?
right. And because of that, it's like my relationship with my family and my brothers, like it was it was pretty much like obsolete at one point because I was so busy with so many activities. And they say, oh, this church doesn't separate families. Of course they will never explicitly say you cannot hang out with your family anymore, you have to spend all your time here. They will never say that.
Yeah.
But when they start making you be, involved in so many activities that you feel like you have to do it, otherwise you'll let down the church, you'll let down the group, you'll let down the members. So you feel obligated to spend all your time doing church activities rather than spending time with your family. And then in doing so, you do isolate yourself from your family. You are separated from your family.
Yeah. And the most
So
devious
that's,
one is like, if you have unbelieving family, they say, well, if you serve the church and you please father and mother, then your family will thank you because on the day father comes, right? Who knows? Maybe she'll save them like Noah, right? Noah's only
yeah,
righteous
they'll
one,
always use the Noah example.
right?
Noah, he was so faithful in, building the ark. And then look what happened. God allowed him to come into the ark,
Yeah.
just days before. That's what they use that. You have no idea how many times I use that on members.
I use it on
Like,
me all the
it's
time.
so,
Use it on me all the time. Does that always come to you with like
it's,
problems? Because again, Quincy was like my leader for years, especially when I was in the youth. I mean, he was my teacher. He was like my man for years. And I would come to him and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm having a problem with my family. Like, what should I do?" And you're like, "Oh, just preach, brother. Oh, just pray or just come to Zion."
it's the same thing over and over that I tell you. Uh, it's just the same rhetoric that we put out. Like, we follow a template that
It's a
us
script.
members, teachers do. It's a script. And we just, no matter how many times we sound like a broken record, we'll say it.
Yeah,
And we just keep saying it and saying it and saying it until you believe it, until you're convinced of yourself that it's gonna come true.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, it's just so I just through all those activities, them pushing me to be involved and especially like preaching. Of course, that's like your whole life
yeah.
preaching. That's all you
Got to
do,
bear fruit,
and
or
then
else you're gonna die.
right, and then after you come back from preaching, then there's dinner, and then after
Bible
dinner,
study,
there's Bible study.
signatures,
It's just, yeah, it's just nonstop. That's
construction, whatever.
mhm.
So, how did you come to
It's
Salt Lake then? Tell me that.
so after so like I said before, I became the piano player for service. Um, so there was another branch and under San Diego. It was like the third San Diego branch, or we call it the North County branch because it was in the North County, San Diego. Um, the overseer there and his wife, um, well, they were called like branch church managers. Technically, that's what they're called. Um, they ended up moving to Salt Lake City, right? So actually, when I took over as a piano player for services in the main San Diego church, the main piano player was was the wife that went to the North County branch. So when she left with her husband to come to Salt Lake, they asked me, "Hey, Quincy, can you come and play for services because we don't have anyone?" So I did that for, 3 weeks. Just I would have, and it was like a 30-minute drive because I was living way down south where the main church was in San Diego, but I had to drive all the way up to the northern San Diego, and that was a 30-minute drive. And by the way, gas is really expensive in California. Um, So I was doing that. And then after maybe 3, 4 times doing that, they were like, "Oh, Quincy, what do you think about coming and being a permanent piano player for North County Zion?" And then obviously when the pastor is asking me that, what am I going to say?
No.
Right? And I'm the type of person who hates to disappoint people. Like, I'm a yes man. I will say yes to anything just because I don't want to disappoint them. Um, so I said, "Yes, pastor. Yeah, I can do that." So then me and my wife at the time, we ended up attending there, and then we ended up getting a place closer to there. So we became, members of the North County Zion. So we were there for 9 months, and obviously being there, it was the same thing. I was a piano player, being so involved in everything, preaching, teaching members and whatnot. And then we got asked by the pastor of the main church in San Diego, "Hey, do you want to, like, what do you think about going somewhere? Like, there, we have this church here in New Mexico, Albuquerque. We have this church here. We have Salt Lake City. We have blah, blah, blah. Which, if you were to go, which one would you like to go?" And then we both said Salt Lake City.
Why?
So I don't know why everyone wanted, for some reason, like, we wanted to go to Salt Lake City. And I think a lot of members in San Diego, they saw how much it was growing.
Uh,
So I think Salt Lake City was kind of like a favorite, I think. I don't know. But
gotcha.
anyways, we both said Salt Lake City. So we ended up moving to Salt Lake City in June of 2014. And same thing, when I got there, I became the piano player right away, because I took over from the overseer's wife. She was the main piano player, the deaconess. So just as I took over for her for the main San Diego church, just as I took over from her in the North County church, now I took over for her in Salt Lake City. So doing that, being involved in multimedia. It was when I came to Salt Lake, I was really getting involved a lot more in multimedia. So that was taking up a lot. And then uh yeah, you're just constantly, working and working, working. And then a year after we moved to Salt Lake City, we ended up getting the main church building.
Yeah.
And um
End of 2015, I think.
yep, it was October of 2015 that we got the building. So we got the building, but then I didn't move into the church until it was December 1st of 2015 that I moved in. Because it was already kind of talked about. It was discussed by the overseer of Salt Lake City, and then also the pastor of the main church in San Diego,
Fun
because we're
fact.
under San Diego.
Fun fact. I was actually one of the first members to see it. Like, so the one in Salt
Oh,
Lake
really?
City, I remember Eddie took me, and we were
Yeah,
going in, and it was actually like it was a medical,
medical
yeah,
building,
medical. It wasn't a
medical
medical building.
equipment.
Yeah, they built medical equipment, and the baptism room was like
Yeah,
a clean room.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it had a
yes. It
clean
was
room,
like,
and there was like a bunch of crazy big machines all over the place, and upstairs where the fellowship is, they had
yeah.
that nasty 70s carpet that we still kept for years, but it had
Yeah,
like 1,000 cubicles that we all tore out.
yeah.
And
This place was massive. This
yeah,
place was 4 times as big as our office church.
which I remember in
Um,
the office church when we would do the morning sermons for general pastor, we'd all be like, and now general pastor will deliver or we'll watch a video or whatever, I don't remember what the saying was, but it was like, and now general pastor will deliver the water of life through video sermon or something like that.
yeah.
And we'd all pick up our chairs,
A little double.
and then as soon as it's done, and like we
Yeah.
would do like, like a
You would
90
do the
degree
whole
turn.
shuffle. Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's so funny
Good
now to
times.
think about it.
Sorry.
Good
I
times.
just wanted to,
No, no worries. So I moved in, and so we moved in, and when you move into the church, you're not officially pastoral staff. So from optics, everyone thinks that, oh, as soon as you live in the church, you're now pastoral staff.
hmm,
Or for optics, so, I mean, yes, you do the duties of like pastoral staff, but on paper, you're not pastoral staff. You don't become pastoral staff until it's like
Signed off.
I think it's like signed off like on paper or something like that. Um, and then even I was an assistant overseer officially on paper until maybe 2 years later, I think, that I got the
Was it when you
that I
became deacon?
became. I don't know, like all the timeline of how things happened, I can't really remember, but right away I was still a brother when I moved in for a couple years, and then I became deacon. And then in terms of becoming pastoral staff, like on paper, I don't know. I think it was after I became deacon, I'm assuming. But yeah, w- when you become, when you live in Zion, there's this rule. It's called first. No, what is it? First one out, last one in, I think.
Yeah, so you have to
First
be
one
up
out,
before the overseer, and then you can't go
and
to
his
bed
wife.
until the overseer goes to sleep. At least that's what Mitch
Exactly.
told me.
Yes, it's true. So if you're a member, and it's all goes by seniority. So when you move in, as a pastoral staff or like an assistant, let's just say, um, you have to be out first before the overseer and his wife. And you have to prepare the coffee, um, but everyone is different, right? But the main point is you have to be the first one out. And I'm not a morning person, so I hated getting up. So I had to wake up like at 6 every morning, I think.
Dang. What would you
I
do?
know.
Just go eat breakfast and just wait for him to get up, or
You
what?
go eat breakfast. Yeah, I mean, every Zion is different. Like the deaconesses, some of they would make actual like full on breakfasts, but a
Nice.
lot of the times we would just have cereal,
Really?
a bowl of cereal. Yeah, but sometimes I think she would make
I
breakfast,
remember
but
Eddie
for
loved
the
cereal though.
majority, oh yeah, he
He was
loves
like a
cereal.
cereal
Yep.
fanatic, in my opinion.
He was. No, you're not wrong. He was. Um, so most of the time we would just have cereal because we were just pretty simple,
Yeah.
because he was all about just like getting to work right away. So I would be the first one out and then last one in. In other words, I couldn't go to bed until he went to bed. And there's an alarm system in the building, so I would have to be the first one out to disarm it, and then I would have to be the last one in to arm it. But it wasn't the majority of the time it was like that. I had to go in when after he would go in. But there were times though, several times where he would be like, "Hey, Quincy, you can go in if you want. I'm gonna do a little bit more work." And I'm like, "Okay." Sometimes, I would take advantage of that opportunity because I was just
But
tired.
you had to be
But
afforded the opportunity though.
yes, yep, he had to say, "Hey," he had to tell me, "Hey, you
Key
can go."
important context there.
Yes, he had to tell me I can
Like
go
you
in.
couldn't just be like, "Hey, I'm tired. I'm gonna go to sleep right now."
No, I don't think so. He had to tell me that. Like, "Oh, Quincy, you can go in if you like." I'm like, "Okay, God bless you. Thank you, missionary." So he eventually he was a deacon and then became a missionary. Um, but like, it's just, yeah, it's so strict. It's so disciplined. So when you're actually before when we got the building, and I was asked by the pastor, like, do you want to go? Like, or do you want to do this? And I said, of course I said yes, but I was like 30-70. Like I didn't want to do it. No, 70-30. I didn't want to do it, but like I felt like I had to say yes because the pastor was asking me. It was expected of me from the
You kind
overseer
of knew
and
it was
his wife.
inevitable that you were going to be doing
Yes.
this. Did you already
Mhm.
know
And
a little bit about the pastoral staff, and that's why you were kind of like, "I really don't know if I can
I
do this."
just knew it was hard. I just knew it was hard. I remember speaking to a pastoral staff when I was in San Diego, and he was just kind of very briefly explaining to me what it was like. Um, and you kind of know, you kind of have a sense, you kind of have um, what was that one word that Korean term they would say? Like you have
Nunchi.
a nunchi.
Gotta have that nunchi. And you can only get nunchi by eating kimchi.
Yes, exactly. So you kind of have nunchi. You kind of start to pick up that
Oh man.
That pastoral staff is hard. Like, you have to know what you're getting into.
So
So
explain that a little bit to
I
me, because still I don't really know what pastoral staff is. Like, okay, so like what do you do though?
past
Like what do you just study sermons all day? Do you just watch general pastor sermons all day?
you're
Like what are you doing?
yeah, you're taking care of everything, the whole entire church. You're cleaning the church, you're doing construction, you're doing landscaping, you're taking care of all the electronics and multimedia. So keep in mind, I was the only there was no other assistant overseer. Under the overseer, there was only, so under the overseer and his wife, it was me, the assistant overseer, and then my
Yeah.
wife. That was it. The whole entire time. There was only a few months where there was another couple that also moved from San Diego, and it was only for a few months that we were all living together.
I remember that.
So, yeah. And um but the reason why it was only a few months was because the overseer and this brother, they were clashing. They weren't, there was just tension. And so finally
Yeah.
they were asked to be the house church leaders in Ogden.
Yep.
Right. So they were there for a few months. I don't know how
Yeah,
long.
he was my unit
And then
leader
even,
while he was in Salt Lake.
yeah. And then even there was still tension, even though they no longer lived in the church, they were living over there in Ogden. There was still tension. And then um they went back. I don't know the exact reason why, but they ended up going back to San Diego.
Yeah.
So then it ended up just for the entirety of my life as pastoral staff, it was just me.
Yeah.
When you go to San Diego or when you go to other big churches, there are like 4 or 5 couples under the main overseer
That's true. I've
and
seen
his
it.
wife. So me, it was just me. So I had to take care. Obviously, the overseer would also, be there with me, but like I had to, when he wasn't there, I had to do the landscaping, and I always had to like push brothers to come help. That was the hardest thing. Like, even though I knew brothers were busy with their families or with work, I had to really like bug them a lot to come to do like preparation work and landscaping. Sometimes there's just so many nights where it was just me and one other brother, and that's it. And that's how it
I
was a
remember
lot.
sometimes it was just me and you sometimes.
Yeah, that's how it was, just because members had lives, they had
And you were
families to
choir
take care of.
director too, so
Yep, I was a choir director, so I could only clean for so long, and then I had to, go take care of choir. So it was just busy all the
yeah.
time, and taking care of media, like all the equipment, inventory, um, all that stuff, and it was a lot. And
Yeah.
there was just certain things that you do. And, speaking of multimedia, there's cameras in the church. And one thing that it's, I was asked to help the overseer do it, but one of the things, no one knows this, but there are cameras installed in the building, and they're all in like pointed towards public rooms,
Right.
like the kids room, the sanctuary, front entrance, back entrance,
Fellowship, the ocean.
fell. Yep.
Yeah.
Uh, but there were 2 cameras that we installed, me and the overseer, because he helped me, but they're actually fake. They're fake.
At
It's
least to your
like,
knowledge. They're probably not going to be fake after this, though.
yeah, exactly. So there were 2. I don't remember where one of them was, but I do remember one of them was in the fellowship.
The
So
fellowship, like where we eat, or
where we eat,
okay.
the long tables with the folding chairs, that camera in there is fake. So members, if you're watching this, um, you may notice that it's probably going to disappear in a couple days because it's fake. And when the overseer asked me to install it, I didn't question it, but it was all just to make members feel secure, feel safe. but also to make so that members do know that they are being watched so that they're not going to try anything stupid, but it does create this false sense of
For
security.
sure.
Um, and I just think that's wrong. And, you know, I was asked to help, uh, by the overseer to install it. And it's just literally, it's like adhesive. You just stick it up on the ceiling and that's it. But it looks real. It's a dummy camera. It's fake. Um, which is crazy. I don't know where the other one was, but I know it was placed in like in a very public area. Maybe it's probably on the other side of the fellowship wall where all those like wooden square tables are. I think it's maybe there. I don't
So
know.
did a
But
member just
anyways,
complain and then the overseer was just like, fine, we'll put up cameras or what?
I don't know. I never asked him
Ah,
because
you were just a
you
yes
know
man.
I was just a yes man, and you don't ask
That's fair.
questions. But you know, learning about what was going on in Salt Lake City about the member, and
Yeah.
they um you mentioned it in your previous videos.
Maybe
Maybe the parents did say
and he
something,
just did it as a
and
reaction, probably, I would assume.
exactly, maybe the parents said something, because it involves kids, and
That's fair.
maybe he just put it up. But I don't know. Nothing. I'm not saying that was the reason, but it's you
It
can only
makes sense.
speculate
Yeah, you
so
can
much,
speculate.
right? But the point I want to express is that false sense of security. Like you have members thinking that there are cameras in there and that you're continually being filmed. But what if something did happen in the fellowship, um, but none of it was actually captured on camera because it's a fake camera? Then what can you do about
It
it?
reminds me of Passover, since we're talking about false sense of security.
Yeah, right. When I was up on the rooftop, like you're put in situations where it's just not safe, and and that's the thing about this group is that you're so convinced that you are invincible, that you have the Passover, or because you're in a position of authority that you can do whatever you want because you think it is under the authority of God.
Yeah.
So
Dude,
it's
I
just
was walking around Chicago in 2021, like, literally, like, I don't know if you remember, like, 2021, but that was, like, one of the worst years for, like, shootings in
yeah,
Chicago.
yeah.
And I remember I was just like, and it was like Lollapalooza and stuff. So there was like a bunch of crazy people, but I
Oh,
was just going up to everyone and anyone on the streets of Chicago. Had no idea where I'm
yeah,
going, where the bad parts of town are. For all I know, I was walking in them, no idea.
yeah,
But you're just like, Passover, Father, Mother are with us. We're bearing fruit. You just don't even think like someone could literally just like end me right now.
yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about it. There is nothing that's going to like stop it. But this is something to bring up with members is this false sense of security. People have gotten hurt. People have
Hmm.
gotten just, I mean, hurt like emotionally, mentally, physically, just because they have this false sense that God is going to protect them. Passover is going to protect them.
Hmm.
Like this is another example of this fake security system, right? Like
Hmm.
it's
And
terrible.
I won't mention it. I won't say this, but I've heard some things that have happened to members. It is just horrible. Like the member that I'm thinking of, they're no longer here. They're no longer living. Um, they're told they had the Passover, they'll be protected, but they're no longer here.
Where was it?
Not in
Oh
Salt
no, I
Lake.
mean like
It was
where was the protection?
oh oh
Where was the
yeah, I
Passover?
know, right? It wasn't there. And that's just, who knows what happens when what's going on in their head when they're trying to do they're doing something and they think they're going to be safe because they have the Passover, and then something happens to them
Well,
like
and
that.
you think the
It's
church
just,
is gonna like say what actually happened? No,
yeah,
they're going to be like, I mean,
exactly.
you've heard Missionary Ron's story where he talks about this woman got hit by a bus and the pastor tried to pin
Yeah,
it on her, like, oh, she must not have eaten it. No, that can't be true. Like
yeah,
the lady got
just
ran over by a bus and you're trying to blame her for not keeping the Passover and that's why she died. You
yeah.
know,
How the pastor was like, "No, I don't think she did. Like, I don't think she ate the
even
Passover." And the
gaslighting
sister
her
was
when she's
saying,
not even there to even hear it. Like, give me a freaking
"Yeah," and the
break.
sister's like, "Pastor, I saw I was right next to her. I saw her eat the Passover. No, I don't think she did.
It's unreal.
And that's like that thought, if it's implanted in your mind and it's ingrained in your mind so many times, like I said, you convince yourself that it's
And
true
it's dangerous.
and it's dangerous. And you start to put yourself in dangerous situations thinking nothing is going to happen to you. Um, and it's just, yeah, it's really dangerous. It's a terrible thing. And I think they have to stop doing that. They have to stop making people think that they're unstoppable, because
Yeah.
that's what this church thinks right now, that they're unstoppable and that they can do whatever they want.
Because you think the church is going to pick up the pieces when you're gone? You think they're going to comfort
Right.
your family? That you think they're going to pay out for damages? You think they're going to do anything once you're gone?
Right.
They're
Right.
gonna bury it as long as they possibly can. I mean, and I'm saying that because we have receipts. I mean, how many testimonies have we had? Not even just on my channel, but on other channels where they try to bury anything and everything, even if it was a faithful member. I mean, you heard about that poor family. It was like Pentecost or something, like the last service of Pentecost. They were driving home, and all but one of their family perished in a car crash.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I
Yes.
hope the church is helping with that situation and like doing whatever they can to take care of the family and whatnot. But it's just, this is the kind of stuff where you take it too seriously. And this is what happens, when you plant these ideas in people's heads. I mean, I'm not blaming the church for anything, right? It's not,
Mhm.
I can't blame them and say, oh, it's the church's fault. I can't do that. But I'm just saying, like, implanting these false ideas of superiority and invincibility, that is going to lead to these kind of things. So you need to dial it back.
Mhm. Yeah, and, that reminds me of how we had that, like our preaching, like Holy Spirit movement
Yeah.
thing, There was like that Operation Infiltration one where we
Yeah.
we we
I hated
were the
those.
whole theme of that. So a Holy Spirit movement is like a theme for that month, for preaching,
Yeah.
so like one month it could be like uh preaching to your
Yeah.
coworkers, and then another month preaching to
Campus.
your schoolmates or
Yeah.
whatever. And then one was called Operation Infiltration, where it was focused on preaching at the buildings that have secure locks, where you can only get in with a code. And so the whole mission was to kind of
Trespass.
trespass, exactly.
Yeah.
So you wait for the member, you see a member about to walk in, and then you just hop out of your car and then pretend like you just follow right behind them as if you're going to your own
Or you'd
apartment.
wait
And so you
there.
just get, yep,
Or you'd wait
yep,
there,
exactly.
and if somebody comes up to the door like, oh, I forgot my key fob, or I can't remember my code, and they're like, oh,
Yeah,
sure, do, and you open it, and then you go in, and you call everybody
yep.
else. You're like, hey guys, I'm in, and then you
Hey,
let
I
like
got it. I'm in. Yeah.
5, 7 other people come in. It's just,
Yeah, and that kind of thing. Like, you don't do that, but you think that because you're the Church of God, you're invincible and you're allowed to do
you can do
that. You
whatever
can
you want.
trespass,
Like,
and that's
remember
okay.
when we were in the president's room with the
Yeah.
governor, and
Uh-huh.
we moved that massive table?
Oh,
That table is
yes.
probably like, I don't even know how old it is,
It
but
was that gold
yeah,
room,
it's the gold room. Yeah, the
with this
president's
like
room.
really old
And
table,
like
like
four or
from
five
the
of us,
1800s or
yeah,
something.
like 4 or 5 of us just like pushed it across the floor a few feet. Like, this just
Yes.
shows you, like, no regard. We are the
No,
top of the
none at
world. We
all.
don't answer to anybody. We are just the top dogs. We don't care about nothing. Because I
Yes.
remember that. I think even you
Th-
helped with that because you're in the photo.
oh yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I am in the photo. That room, I felt so
It was
uncomfortable.
awkward,
I
right?
felt so
And I
uncomfortable
think even
doing
some of
that.
the staff saw it maybe, and they were just, if I remember correctly, maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but
And you have to be so pushy as being in charge of multimedia. You have to be so pushy and you just be like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to stand right here. We're going to sit right here with this background. Like, you have to just be really firm with these people who are catering to us, and I have to
out of
tell
their
them like,
busy
oh,
schedule.
yes, exactly. And, I have to be here,
Were you
or
the one
I
that
have
had to
to,
show the governor our intro video?
I think so.
Like on the iPad? and it's like a five
Probably.
minute.
I had to do that.
It's like a 5 minute.
And they have to just
Yeah,
awkwardly
it's like a
sit there
five
and
minute
watch the
video,
whole
and he's
thing.
just watching, and everyone is even like his staff, and all of us are just like,
Yeah.
'cause it's like 5 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
Good
So
times,
many
man.
things that yeah. Good times. Just so many things that you know, like I said, you think it's right because it's for God. It's for God the Father and God the Mother, right?
Yeah.
Um, and another thing about um, leaders having this sense of entitlement, thinking that they can do whatever they want. So well, I don't know if I should explain this now. Maybe I'll explain it when I get to it.
Okay.
Maybe, okay. So, I guess back to where I am in my journey, in my life of faith. I'm in, I'm in Salt Lake City. I'm pastoral staff. I'm neck deep. I can't get out, you know, and uh my overseer, he's just pushing me to the brink. I believe it was in I always forget it's 20 was it 2019 where we did the construction? It's the
For the
same
tile
year that the yeah,
in the fellowship,
it's a pretty much the same year, pretty much the same year where the United Nations came to Salt Lake City. Whatever year
that
that
was
was. I believe that was
2018 or
2019.
2019.
Okay, I think it was
My
oh
middle daughter was born June of 2019, and she got baptized by you 3 weeks
uh
after that. And I remember we showed up and you forgot, and you're
yes.
all covered in tile dust,
Oh
and you had to
yeah.
run and
And
go
that had to be
change.
yep.
And then, yeah, so then we got, yeah, so it had to have been 2019, because I remember that specifically. You came from the sanctuary, they were working in there, and you had a bunch of tile dust. You had to go change into your suit, and we were just like waiting there awkwardly with my mom.
Yeah.
and then
Oh, right.
and then I remember my mom, you like had you like tried to make her wear a veil, and you were like,
And she was like,
yeah, and
"No."
you were pushing her to wear a veil. You're like, you have to wear a veil if you're gonna be in the baptism. I'm like, dude, just let her be in. Like, oh my gosh. And then you like called Eddie and something, and then he was like, "Oh, it's fine, whatever. Just let her do it. She's not a member." And then so finally you
Yeah.
let it go, and she was able to be there in the baptism. I'm like, dude, just let it go.
Oh
She's
my
not a
god.
member. You're like, no, no veil, no baptism.
Oh, the baptisms.
The baby baptisms,
I
bro.
have so many stories. Like you keep triggering all these
That's what
memories.
I do. It's my specialty.
I remember I had this. Oh yeah, just I remember like the female teacher, like shoving bread down the baby's mouth to make them
Dang,
swallow it, and like this baby is like screaming so loud. It was probably the craziest baptism I ever had
dang,
to do, because this baby was maybe she was they were like 3 or 4, but they refused to eat the bread, drink the wine, and then obviously having water poured on them. That was hard, but the bread and the wine was the worst thing. And it just you had to. I remember the female teacher was like the mom was holding her child, and the female teacher was like stuffing the her finger down her throat
jeez.
so she would eat it. And I'm literally just standing there. I cannot do anything because, me being a male, the female has to,
Yeah.
handle
Did
them.
they
And,
ever like make her like close her mouth, like shut her mouth, and like,
I believe so. Yeah, probably. But it was like a blood curdling scream. That's what it was for 10 minutes straight.
dang,
And I was like, I don't know. It was crazy. The baptisms. Um, and then the short-term preaching missions during the the baptisms during those times, it's like you're really forcing them. You're like baptizing them out in the open and the public. It
in
was always
Walmart
so
on
awkward.
campus, just
Yep.
doesn't matter
And
what
you have
weather it
to
is. You're just salvation.
yes. And then you just try to get the numbers. That's all they want is the numbers. The overseer, all he cared about is how many baptisms could we get during the short-term preaching mission period.
Yeah.
That's all it was about. Um, and we baptized a lot, and um, I've experienced some crazy ones. Like I'll have to share them with you sometime, but it's just, yeah, it's just, you feel so awkward. and I know exactly what I was doing. I was forcing these people with them barely knowing anything, just the Passover, mother, and it's like that's it.
And the
It's
baptism
just
forms and double baptism check and all that crap.
yep. You have to get their address. It was so awkward, those baptism
Like,
forms,
why do you
because they
need
used to be very
this?
simple, but then when they came out with a new document asking all information, um, I honestly just straight up told them like, yeah, like we need to. This is just information, just a record for our church, and then just say it with a smile and like not flinch. Hopefully they'll say yes, and then they do.
There was one I
And
remember. There was a case one time where someone got baptized and everything and didn't want to fill out the form.
yeah, and I forgot. I think those cases you can't
Like, you don't count them,
baptize
right?
them. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Which is like, that's so like
But
dumb.
and then they just kept adding all these steps where, so they came out with a new baptism form, and then they came out with something where there's an app that the head office released and only pastoral staff members have access to it. You put in their name, you put in their birthday, and it supposedly does a check to see if they were already baptized before, like if they didn't know it, if they didn't realize it. So in order to prevent double baptisms, um, we would have to do a check to make sure that we weren't baptizing them again in the Church of God.
Yeah.
But now that I think about it, that was just a way. That could probably have been just a way for them to
Collect data.
get the name and birth date. Yep. Now that I think about it, actually, so I would do that um every time now. Like they just that was kind of a later thing that they just kept adding onto this baptism process. But
And
yeah,
if I could pick your brain a little bit, so how do you get baptism authority? That's something I've always wondered. Is general
you
pastor
get
call you and he's just like, "Hey, you go baptize now."
Yeah. So you do get a like certificate, like a formal certificate
Oh,
saying, you know, do you have baptism
do you
authority,
have it? Can you
whatnot.
show it?
No, I had to give it back.
What?
Yes. Yep. Nope, it's not mine. Just like how,
What?
right, the truth books, they're not yours. You're just paying to rent it, and then they could, you know, ask for it back when you
You know what's
leave.
funny? I'm the only one that no one's asked to actually get my books back.
They never asked me back. I kept mine for maybe a year, and then I threw mine out. But as an act of finally moving on, I
Yeah.
didn't want to. I wanted to just move on.
As you can
But
see,
at
I
the
haven't
same
moved on
time,
yet.
yeah, at the same time, I kind of wish I did have it just because, like, just so I could see, like, oh yeah, what did they used to say? But
So,
it was just kind of an act to, like, it was help to help me
you
move on,
closed the
move forward.
chapter, right?
Yeah,
And then I
yeah,
contacted you and reopened it all.
you did, and I went down the rabbit hole, and that's why I'm here. So it's your
Oh,
fault.
well, you technically
So
you led me to baptism,
yeah,
so you
right.
created this monster, so you're gonna have to deal with
I know.
it.
But Um, yeah, what was I
So
saying?
you 2019, obviously, you were doing the
Oh,
tile,
the tile. So 2019 was my boiling point. Maybe 2018, 2019 is when my faith just started plateauing.
which isn't very.
It
That's pretty quick though, right? Because you didn't become pastoral staff till like midway 2016, right?
probably,
So
yeah.
we're talking
Yes.
like 2-3 years being pastoral staff, and you're
Yeah.
already just like,
It was just I was overworked. So what happened in 2019, it was the feast of from Ascension Day to Pentecost, 10 days straight.
yeah, the prayer week.
So, as anyone knows, that is no sleep during that time. You're waking up early in the morning. And mind you, remember the whole uh first one out, last one in thing
Yeah.
applied. So I had to get up like at 4 o'clock, and I had to make sure the alarms were disarmed so that and turn on all the lights, unlock the doors so that members would come in. Um I had to get up extra early because so eventually I moved out of the role of being the piano player
Yeah.
for the service. So then the sister took over, but she would love to come way early because she needed to practice before service.
Yeah.
So I had to get up even earlier to make sure she can come in and practice before service. But yeah, I didn't like that.
But I will say though,
But anyways,
she took that job
but she was dedicated
seriously.
though. She was
Like I
dedicated. I will
remember
give her
she had
that.
it all laminated. She had the songs that she knew and didn't
Mhm.
know. I mean, and this sister was dedicated. So props to her for sure.
Yes, for sure. And she's still in it. So, that dedication is, yeah, it's still with her. And yes, I do give her props and willing to come that early. And I was willing to, well, unwillingly, but willingly to let her in and, do her practice. But, that was her passion. So, but anyways, I would have to, yes, it was just 10 days of doing that. But then the day we ended on the day of Pentecost, that is when construction started. So after 10 days, it was construction in the sanctuary. This construction project was the hardest thing I've ever done because we took out the whole floor and we were laying down cement. And what the tiles were like 2 by 2 feet,
They're
right?
massive.
And we were massive and they were heavy. We did that for 30 days straight. After doing 10 days of worship service, it was 30 days straight. And obviously, I had to brothers were told you have to come early to do construction
And
work.
stay
So I
late.
had to and stay late. So I had to make sure I was up early and I was already doing construction by the time members came at like 7. I was already doing construction like at 6:30 in the morning. And I wouldn't go to bed until 2 because the overseer would love, love, love to work late. And
That was
that's
like
the thing
his
about this
thing.
overseer. That was his thing. He just had a crazy drive to just do this work. I don't know where he gets this energy from, but that's the thing though. He never realized that. He thinks everybody's like him, like we can just work, 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 work. So it's like, 10 days of feast and then construction work for 30 days. But then within these 30 days, we had the blood drive that I had to prepare, all the media, all the interviews, contacting, making sure we get all the equipment. That day we did the blood drive, right? Obviously, a blood drive, it's no simple
It's a lot of
task.
work.
There's a lot of stuff going, especially when you're media
And you're in charge of it.
and you're in charge of, and you have to make sure everything gets caught on camera. Otherwise, you need to have good footage, right? So you're running around making sure you catch everything. So that's what I'm doing. And then on top of that, I get my blood drawn. But then after that, guess what happened? Oh,
Construction.
brothers, we're going to do construction. So after we had our blood drawn, it gets you tired. We're told we need to do construction. So we ended up doing construction after uh, the blood drive. And remember, this is still continuous days of work starting from the feast. Maybe this is 2 weeks or 1 week
And this took months,
into
if I
the
remember correctly. It took like
no, it was literally 30 days. We finished within 30 days.
the tile in the sanctuary.
It was a 30-day project.
Oh,
It just happened to be,
for
yeah.
some reason I thought it
But
took way longer.
mm-mm. So in those 30 days, there was a blood drive. Not only was there the blood drive, but there was also the annual picnic that we have in Idaho Falls.
I remember that.
Again, that's not a simple task. You're setting up events. You're working with the group leaders, with all the members, making sure they do all their parts. Again, I'm doing multimedia. I'm running around, making sure we get all the footage, right? And that uh we did it in Idaho Falls. We started doing it in Idaho Falls, which is 4 hours north of Salt Lake City.
Because we
So
had
we
like
leave early.
Billing and we had
hmm
Great Falls
Yep.
and Boise and all them too.
Yes. So this is all taking place within, like I said, the sanctuary construction project. So we're doing that. Then guess what? When everyone is packs up and goes home to drive 4 hours back to Salt Lake, I'm told, "Hey, Deacon, I need you to do construction at the Idaho Falls Zion. Uh, Grab a couple brothers with you because you need to put in like the filling inside the drywalls in you need to put that in
Like the insulation?
insulation. Have you ever worked with insulation before?
Nope. I hire someone.
Do you know what it's like to put stuff in the
Is it like the
mall?
fiberglass stuff?
It's exactly. You have fiberglass all over you, like
That's
tiny,
dangerous,
tiny
dude.
millions of pieces of fiberglass, just like it's like dust, but it's fiberglass, and that's what you're putting up.
Dude, that's straight up
So we
dangerous.
did that after the whole day of the annual picnic. We went to the Idaho Falls Zion, me and a few brothers, and we did that. And we stayed there until maybe like 10.
Dang.
And then we had to drive back covered in fiberglass, sitting in a car for 4 hours.
And
And then when we get back, construction. Obviously not, it's already late in the day, but it's then just more days of
so what was
construction.
your sleep schedule like during all this? Like, were you getting 8 hours, six
I
hours?
never, no. Even on a regular day, you never get 6 hours.
You were doing all this for years, like doing all
Yep.
this pastoral
From
staff
2015.
for four
So
hours, 3 hours, like what?
yeah, I would say I was getting 5 hours sleep every day.
Which is not even
That
close to
was that
enough.
was the that was the norm that was the normal sleep schedule for
So you're
me.
constantly sleep deprived, basically, like zombie.
Oh yes. And members even saw me like when now that I've met up with a few members who are, former members, and they tell me like, Quincy, I remember like I would see you were just so tired and you were just
Ragged.
so over it, and you would just try to put on a smile, but I could
You're
see
dying
right
inside.
through it. Yeah. So it was just taking a toll on me. So finally, so this is still within that month of construction. So finally, like we're doing more construction, and the overseer, he's just micromanaging, telling me to do this, telling me to do that, and then like, and he's like, there's like a couple other brothers around, and I remember I was getting very irritated because I was trying to say something, and I was just very irritated at
We
that
had no
point
sleep
because
and you were
after,
overworked for
yep,
ever.
this was after all those events that I just mentioned, the feast, the picnic, the
Constant
blood drive,
construction, fiberglass, all
construction.
that stuff.
So then finally, the overseer was like, Deacon, like, are you okay? Like, and I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Like this, I'm so frustrated right now. And he's like, oh, okay, look, let's go to the back. So we go to that back room behind the
Yeah.
sanctuary. And then I went off on him. This is me, the assistant overseer, yelling at the overseer.
Which doesn't happen, I assume.
This never happens. And I'm going off on him. I was yelling. I was so pissed. This is probably like one of them. Like, I don't know. I was so mad. Like,
Just all this stuff was just
I
bubbling up
wanted to
for a
like, I
long
wanted
time.
to like, yeah, I, I wanted to like, use profanity, but I had to control myself. Um, but I just told him like, why are you doing this? Not once since the feast started. I asked him like, did you ever ask me, hey, Deacon, do you need a day off? Do you need to get rest? Do you need to catch up on some sleep? Not once did he ever ask me that during that period, doing all those events. He's just completely oblivious to me and like my physical health, my mentality. He just kept thinking I could just keep going and going and going. And I told that to him. I pointed that out to him. Like, I'm not you. Like, you can do what you do, and it's amazing. I don't know how you do it, but I'm not you. I'm me. And
Yeah.
not once have you taken into consideration like how I was feeling.
Yeah.
Like, and I questioned, like, did you ask me once? And he's like, and then he was like putting his head down, like, no, like I'm sorry. No, I didn't. I'm so sorry. And that was my tipping point in my whole, that was, yeah, my tipping point in my entire life of faith. And just from that point on, I just started losing drive, started losing motivation. Um, and then COVID hit, and that just exasperated my drive
Yeah.
because remember, it's only two during what? How many months was it where there was no worship service kept in the church?
I feel like it was almost like 6 months or something.
It was a
It
long
was a
time.
long time.
but imagine it was just us four: the overseer, his wife, me, and
And
my
at this
wife.
point, it's already kind of shaky. It seems like.
Yep. Yeah, because of that happened. And I'm just so sick of him. And like, we're just, it's just, it just exasperated the whole situation. And
So if I could ask you real quick some clarifying questions.
yeah, yeah,
Was was Eddie working with you constantly and it's just his drive was just better than yours? Or
yeah. He was constantly working. He never was like resting. I mean, the only times he would like step away from construction was where he had to take, important phone calls or dealing with member, or maybe at least like preparing a sermon, whatever. But, he was there. He was with us and he was working. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go sit and relax in my office while you do the. It was never like that. He was very driven to complete this project,
yeah,
and just anything in general. When it comes to anything with a church, he's just very driven, and I don't have that drive like him. But I think he forgets that not everyone is like him, and he just gets so lost in his own head that he's always like, go, 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 go,
yeah, for sure. And that's how I knew him too, was
um
just constantly
mhm.
working, constantly.
And that's the perfect member for this organization.
Yeah, I
That's what
agree.
they look for. Somebody who's just willing to keep has a strong will to just keep going.
And
And he forgot that about me. Like, he just completely just was oblivious to it.
yeah, I remember there was this one weird education that we did, and they were like basically saying like from what I remember, missionary Eddie. Well, I guess it's elder now, from what I've heard. Um, I remember he did like this one weird education where it was like we had to like watch each other's words and like treat each other nicely, but then he's like, except for Deacon. Deacon, he can do like only Deacon can practice this. But basically, how I understood it was like, okay, only Deacon can basically be mean. Do you remember that?
Really?
Yeah, where it was
No,
like,
I
there's
don't
a
know. I
reason
don't remember
why
that.
Deacon Quincy is like talks to you like this, but we need to talk like, it was like this really.
Was I there?
Yeah, I think you were
Probably.
there because he said something like
Oh,
only Deacon Quincy can practice this, and basically what it sounded like is we all had to treat each other like angels, but you could treat us like just kind of
like
being like a
crap.
jerk, I guess, like just
Yeah,
being rude or something. And
yeah.
I don't, but if you don't remember, we'll just pass on that.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, there's so many things, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, if he did say that, it
Because I
definitely
remember after that,
tracks.
you
It's
were a lot
definitely
short with people. Because like I remember one time,
really.
I remember one time I showed up and I just got off work, and so I didn't shave. I know it's Friday
Yeah,
for choir. And then you took me
yeah.
outside and like rebuked me for like 10 minutes.
I did.
You're like, look at you. You look like you're homeless. Like, what? How are you going to please father and mother? Like, if you want to be in choir, like, it's a privilege. And
I said that.
yeah, I mean, not word for
Jeez,
word, but
there's
that was
so
like the
many
gist of it.
along those lines. There's okay. There's so many things that I swear. Sometimes I had a dumb mind. I was your cult identity takes over, and you're just doing what this place teaches you to do. And I'm just so glad I didn't lose myself completely. Like, it was always there, but I would just do it just because that's what was expected of
Yeah.
me. And there's so many things. I want to take this time to apologize to everyone who I was very rude to or rebuked. Um, you know, like, that's just what happens. Like, when you're in that position, you just start talking the way you want, thinking that you can do it because you're an assistant overseer, you're a deacon or a title holder. So I do want to say I'm sorry for to anyone who I mistreated. So yeah.
I'll think about forgiving you. Just kidding.
Thank you. Please forgive me.
We'll start our own
Right.
I'm sorry movement. How about
Yeah.
that?
Or that's what it was. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you
Um,
get paid by the church?
no,
Okay. So,
it was getting paid. I received no compensation. Between me and my wife at the time, it was my wife that was working. It's usually opposite.
yeah.
It's always the husband that's working, while the wife stays behind and does all the church. It does, helps out with the church activities and whatnot. But in our case, I was the one working full time and my wife was working full time. So our income was through my wife. Um, and, it didn't bother me because I was like, well, I'm doing it for the church. So, that's, you got to work and I'll do the church work.
Did you have to tithe and
uh,
offer more if you were pastoral
yep.
staff?
We had to, oh, did we have to tithe more?
Yeah.
No, just normal, just 10% like everyone else. Um, and it was, we didn't get compensated. Um, like we didn't receive any income at all. It was just all our money, all our income was through my wife's job. Um, so yeah, and yeah, it was, so anyways, back to my story. It was during COVID, right? And it just kind of, my faith was already going down because of what had happened in 2019 with just being overworked and I was just burned out. And then just throughout that year, as that year progressed, I just was really contemplating, I want to step down from being pastoral staff. Like, and stepping down from pastoral staff is a huge deal. To step down is a huge deal because in a way, you're like letting down God because you were chosen, they say you're chosen by God. You were asked to be part of the, pastoral staff, and when I was, before I was asked to move in, the pastor from San Diego, he said, you are the hands and feet of mother. You are the hands and feet. And he kept emphasizing that point. You are the hands and feet of mother. So he was placing like so much importance on this role. So when you step down from it, when you make this decision to step down, it's like it messed with my head. Like, I'm gonna really do this. I'm gonna step down from this position. And that was a really hard thing. So finally, um, I first told my wife, you know, I told her like I'm burned out, like I can't do this anymore. And I cried and I felt really bad. Um, and then a week later, the overseer. I told the overseer. I went in his office, and again, I cried. And I just told him like what I was going through. It was just burned out, you know, and I don't want to do this anymore because my at that time my mindset was, I don't want to keep pretending like I like this position and keep doing it to a point where I'm just like I'm done and then leave the truth, right? As I say,
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. So my whole outlook was, well, let me get out now while I still do have faith, while I still believe, and still at least be in a level where I do have enough faith to keep services, to keep the feast and
Yeah, you just didn't
doing
want to
preaching.
do what you were doing now, but you still believed in the doctrine, you still believed in father and
Exactly.
mother and all that. You were just getting
I
worked
didn't.
to death, and you're just
Mhm.
like, I can't do this anymore, which any normal
Yes.
person probably would have felt the same way.
Yeah. So I wanted to still stay in, but just not be in the role of pastoral staff. I didn't want to stay to a point where I was like, I'm done and then leave
Yeah.
because, what they teach, what they say, oh, if you leave the truth, you're going to hell and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let me just take the safer route and step down now while I still have faith. So I told him that. And then basically, I think that first initial meeting of me telling the overseer I want to sit down, I think it ended with like, well, let's think about it. So it wasn't like this is my decision. So it wasn't until a month later again that I went and spoke to him and I said the same thing and I doubled down. And this time I was like, I want to step down because it's taking a toll on my body, on my mentality. I still want to be able to keep service and follow, not fall away.
Yeah.
So when you're in the like I said, when you hear that a person is going to step down from pastoral staff, automatically, like, what are you thinking? Oh, they must be okay. They're fine because they're stepping down from pastoral staff. No, if a person tells you they're stepping down from pastoral staff, it's because there's it's just taken a toll on them.
Something seriously
There's
wrong.
something, yes, something seriously wrong that they are willing to step down from that position. That's highly sought by so many members. And to say you want to step down, that's a huge deal. So the overseer says, well, let me tell you three things, right? This is, yeah. The first thing he says is, um, Quincy, um, whatever your decision is, I am here for you. I'm here to support you. The second point that he made was, what can I do to change your mind? Right. And then the third point, this is what he said. He said, your decision, and I'm not exaggerating. This is what he says. He says, your decision to step down is spiritual suicide. You are committing spiritual suicide by stepping down. Your
What?
decision to step down is equivalent to taking heroin and shooting it into your body. Your decision to step down is equivalent to taking black tar and injecting it into your body. He said those three things, like the three things of that last point he
Yeah.
made. I'll never forget it. I'm committing spiritual suicide. I'm injecting heroin in my body. I'm injecting black tar in my body. That's what he says to me after I tell him I want to step down.
Which you're already in a pretty poor state of mind, pretty poor state of
Very poor state of mind.
and
I'm already on the ground, and he's kicking me while I'm on the ground by saying those
you're already hanging
things.
on by a thread, and he's like, "Here, let me get some scissors." Boop.
Exactly. And I'm sitting there, and I'm listening to him say this to me. And I'm just in shock that he would say this to me. But the reason why it's just so shocking, it hurt more than it should have. It hurt a lot, but it hurt even more. I didn't mention it, haven't mentioned it yet in this interview, but this overseer that I have been working with, living with since, been working since 2014 with him, well, longer technically, but I've been living with him since 2015. This overseer is my branch. It's the very same person who preached to me 13 years ago when I was at San Diego State.
Dang.
So I essentially followed him wherever he went. He went to North County, San Diego. He left. I went to North San Diego. Then I met up with him in Salt Lake City, right? I have been working with this guy. I have known this guy. He raised me up to be, who I was. I stayed at his house. He let me stay over to us during the feast so that, I could keep the 5 a.m. service. He was so close to me, and I looked up to him. This is the same guy telling me I'm committing spiritual suicide. I'm myself after I'm telling him I I am weak, I'm beaten, I'm so tired, and you're gonna tell me this. Somebody who I have known for 13 and a half years. Well, that's why it hurt so bad because this is like this was a friend of mine, and that's what he's telling me. I hope he's watching this. You know, like I really hope you understand like what your words meant, what those those words meant, like, I still live with it. I'll never forget it. Um, they just became a seed in my mind, and I've just never been able to push it out. I've never been able to let it go because that was my weakest moment, and you completely destroyed me with your words. Um, and that's what that was the type of compassion that I got from this overseer,
Your branch.
my branch, overseer and assistant overseer. That has never happened before. According to his wife, she has never seen that in her entire life. She's Korean, so she's experienced many different churches in Korea. And she said she has never seen where a overseer and assistant overseer were branch and fruit. And so that's why it's like we have this relationship. And I don't know, maybe like, the way he treated me, I don't know how it would have been compared to if there were other assistant overseers, like how he would treat them and speak to them. But I don't know if it's because I'm his fruit that he already has this like superiority over me, or he's like above me because he's my branch. Not only is he my branch, but he's also my overseer. So I don't know if he had felt some like level of comfort that he can kind of just speak to me because he knows me, because we've been friends for so long. So maybe, I don't know, I'm not saying that's what it was, but I that that always entered my mind. That thought always entered my mind was, is it because I'm his fruit that he felt he can just keep pushing me, and raise me up to be somebody? Because there's that thing where like, oh, you when you bear fruit, you want to present good fruit to mother. You want to present the best fruit to mother, right? So because I was his fruit, who knows? Was he subconsciously just like pushing me and pushing me, pushing because he wanted to present me to mother as his like best fruit? I don't know. But what I do know is just the our relationship was just, it was, I don't know, it was really hard to work with him. And then just for him to say that to me was, it was just really hard.
Yeah. And
Um
that's something I kind of want to ask too. Like, from what I've heard, you know, that like the Eddie I know, like me personally, is not the Eddie you know, or
mm,
not the Eddie you knew, not the Eddie Mitch knew.
mhm.
Because again, guys, like both pastoral staff, assistant overseers of Eddie have left, not just stepped down and left pastoral staff, but like left the church. Now, I'm not saying Eddie is to blame for that or something. I'm just saying like that's just the facts, right? That's just how it is. Thankfully, they're both my best friends. You know, thankfully, like they're really good friends of mine. They're really good people. Nothing like they're really, really good people. But that's just what I've. That's just kind of the sense that I'm getting though. Is the overseer I knew is not the same overseer that you dealt with, that Mitch dealt with. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, it's the over Eddie, the overseer we knew behind closed doors is different than the Eddie that everyone see out in public, the lay members. And that's how it is with everyone. Like the overseer is always going to be much more strict with the assistant overseers. Um, but to everyone, he's like, the lovable one.
Is it like a
And
slave
that's
to like slave master mentality or what?
not slave. I don't know. It's just you have to
There's a power dynamic and it's
when
not equal.
yeah, exactly. And it's like you have to completely have trust in the overseer that they are doing the will of God. So you don't question it. You just go with it. You never question it. And that's the thing about my relationship with him was that I wouldn't question it. I would always just suggest an idea. But I think a lot of times it would come out in a way where I was kind of enforcing my opinion, and it would come out as I'm right and you're wrong, or way is better than yours. Um, and it's in that type of situation, it's like the overseer doesn't like him. Like he'd rather just have you do what he wants. You just go with the flow. Don't no questions asked. You just do it, and you just have to have complete trust that they're doing what mother wants. You have to have complete trust in their vision, and that's what that was hard for me because I like to have free agency and to feel like I can contribute to something, not because you're telling me to do it and then I have to, tell everyone to do it. Like I want to be able to contribute, like working together. But you don't remember, you remember in our group leader meetings or like Eddie, he already knew exactly what he wanted, right?
Yeah.
But he would always be like, "So, members, like, what do you want?"
He was very
And
good at
then
that.
everyone would say, "Yeah," and then obviously members would just say exactly what the leader wanted, and then he would say, "Okay, if you insist."
Yeah.
That's
And not only that, but if somebody had like a really dumb idea, he'd be like, okay, make a plan and present it to me. Because,
yeah,
like if it's a dumb idea, they're going to try to make a plan and be like, oh, it's a dumb idea. But he was genius.
yeah,
Like he was a linguistic genius, honestly. Like,
mhm, and that's what he wanted. He wanted to make, he did the best he could to like make us feel like we were contributing and like contributing to like a vision or idea. But in his mind, he already knew what he wanted. And the thing is, like, I'm not saying that like that is only happening in Salt Lake. I'm sure that's happening everywhere.
yeah.
Like the leader always knows what he wants, and you just have to go with it.
But I will say, though,
So
I mean, the fact that there's something broken in this system, right? And I honestly,
yeah.
like, like to be fair, like Eddie always treated me with respect, dignity, love, and, so I can't really blame him for anything. The only thing I could blame him for is maybe not telling me the full truth of things,
Hmm.
obviously. But I think that's not just him, that's just the system as a whole. Um, but the fact is we have an elder overseer, right? Who both assistants who are pastoral staff left, right? Now, there's got to be an issue somewhere, right? This isn't just like a one off, right? And who knows how many times has this happened in other places, right?
Hmm.
So we can't say, oh, it's just Quincy, you didn't live up to the bar, you didn't live up to whatever. It's like, well, then why does it keep happening if it's just you, right? So
Hmm.
the fact that it wasn't just you means that there is a rot in the system, and the way they're doing it is not sustainable and it's not good. And so that's just something I want to bring up too is and one other thing too that Mitch mentioned, he said one time Eddie gave him like a log, and I'm just paraphrasing here, I'm not quoting verbatim. Gave him a log of like all of his shortcomings and everything that he's did with like dates and timestamps or something, and then Mitch had to like sign off on it. Did he ever have to do that to you?
No, he never did that
That's
to
bizarre.
me. But that's insane. Yeah, I thought you were not supposed to keep record of wrongs, right?
What do they
um,
say? Rules for thee, not for me, or
yeah, yeah, but
yeah, that was
you're
shocking to hear. I was like, it's like signing on your own blackmail. Like, yeah,
yeah.
sure. Don't use this against me later, man. Like,
Um, but going back to what you said about like, there's two overseers have left under Eddie, but don't forget all the other house church leaders that have also left in Montana and Idaho and St. George. And there's a lot more. There's a lot
how
more
many
that have left.
branches have
Just,
we closed in the past
yeah.
few years? I mean, we used to have so many branches all over the place, but one by one,
Mhm.
what happened to the whole God? God is with us. We will never be stopped. But
Yeah.
when we close branch, like they'll poke fun at everyone else saying, "Oh, look at that church, close a branch. Oh, look at that church, close their church." But we're closing house churches left and right. Like, what?
And
Doesn't make
one
any
thing,
sense.
when we started opening up all these branch churches and I saw who the leaders were going to be, in my mind, I'm like, they're not ready. It takes so much faith to lead a house church, especially in the rural areas of Idaho and Montana,
Yeah.
especially Montana. You are in the middle of nowhere. You're surrounded by farmland, and in my, I'm like, I I had so much admiration for the house church leaders, like the husband and wife that would lead those churches because
Yeah.
it is so rural, very few members, but they had to just keep going and pushing. The thing is, I was asked by Eddie to if I wanted to like go lead a house church. That was the one thing where I said no. Remember, I was always a yes man.
Yeah.
Whenever he asked me no about leading, I said no, and I told him like I feel I need to be in a very big, busy church because it's always going to keep me busy. Because I knew that if I said yes and that we were sent to lead a house church, I would lose my mind, I would lose my faith, and I would leave the truth.
Yeah.
Again, I was always thinking about like I need to do what's best for myself.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you're supposed to like put others first, put God first. But in reality, I'm like, I need to do what I can so that I don't lose my faith. And leading a house church in the middle of Montana is not going to help me do that.
Yeah.
So I always said, no.
Well, technically, you did lead a house church in a way. You used to come to Layton all the time when I was in that little townhome on the
Oh,
Sabbath, and you
yeah.
do like the sermons.
Yes.
Or you come for like a Sabbath like
Yeah.
every month.
Every month. But that's only one
Yeah.
time. And it was close. But like, I'm talking about,
Full fledged being out there, isolated.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to do Bible studies with members. You have to go preaching with them. You have to do like, it's just constant. And that's like, I'm a very like city guy. Like I love being in an urban area. Like, that's where I feel like I would thrive
Dude,
was
even being in a
being
house
in a
church like
busy
Layton, it's
church.
not really that rural. But even
Mhm.
being in a house church in Layton, I mean, we were in the house church from 2019 until we left in 2024. And
Mhm.
dude, house churches, they're super great, but they can also be like super bad.
It's so it's so slow and it becomes really mundane.
Oh yeah, especially like when your
That's
own
what I
leaders, your own branch church leaders tell you specifically that they don't even want to be there and they want to leave all the time. It's like, this is
yeah, and
great,
then it's
guys.
like all that pressure's on you. You're like, what am I
They're
doing
like, my
wrong? Like
leader doesn't want to
these
be here,
members,
my members don't want to be here. This is
yeah,
great. Nothing wrong here.
yeah, exactly. And so there's all this pressure on you. But yeah, no, that was the one thing I said no to Eddie was when he would ask me, like, what do you think about leading Idaho Falls? I'm like, no.
No, I'm good.
No. But yeah,
So
so
you step down. Let's go back to your
I
story.
stepped down. Yes. I stepped down. No, no, no. I told him.
Oh yeah, you
So
told him,
first, I
yeah.
initially told him in January, and then a month later, I told him in February. And so then we just made a decision. I'll remain as pastoral staff until Resurrection Day of that year of 2021. So he wanted me to, he wanted me to, I didn't step down right away. So I still did my duties, which was very bizarre, a very bizarre time knowing that I was no longer going to be doing this. And so I just had to pretend like I still had this drive to do my duties as pastoral staff.
Yeah.
So finally, April, Resurrection Day, 2021, I moved out and it was weird living in our own apartment. I had to get a job, like a secular job, it was just weird. And being around just
Normal
normal
people.
everyday people, it took me a little bit to get used to it again because like I was constantly surrounded by like loving brothers and sisters who would always say, God bless you. But like when I went back to work, I felt like everyone was just so mad at me or like they were just so rude because
Those
they wouldn't say
Gentiles.
anything. Yeah. So it was an adjustment period for me.
Yeah.
And, um, yeah. So then obviously that causes strain in my marriage. And then we ended up separating. So I got my own place that year of in October 2021. Um, and yeah, it was hard living on my own, not used to having, somebody there. It was really quiet. So I ended up getting a dog
Pitbull.
just to keep me company. No, it's a mini schnauzer.
Oh, you should have got.
Yeah.
You used to have a pitbull though.
I did when I was in
Zeus, right?
college, yeah. Zeus. No, it was Leonidas.
Leonidas. Name my son after him. Just kidding.
Oh yeah, Leo, that's right. Um, but yeah, no, I got my own place, and yeah, I was just, I was still going to church, I was still preaching, but um, you know, I still had my duties though. So when I stepped down, I lost my baptism authority. I was no longer giving sermons.
How did that feel?
Um, so when I stepped down, I felt so insecure for like a few months because I would walk in to the church and
They knew something
people
was
would know
different with
like
you.
something was different. I was no longer baptizing. I was no longer giving sermons. And most of the time when people step down, they just like move away. They go to a different church or they just fall away. So when I had told Eddie, like, we're staying here after we move out, he was like, "Oh, you're still staying in Salt Lake?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
like we don't want to go anywhere. We like Salt Lake." So having to come and continue to attend Salt Lake with everyone, thinking, "Oh, like what happened? Like he's no longer." But actually, I did go to, I think maybe a week before, no, a week after I moved out. I met up with all the group leaders, most of them, I think, and I told them like, "Hey, yeah, I'm just want to let you know I'm stepping down." Like, and I was very considerate of my wife at the time, and I told them like this had nothing to do with her. Like it was completely my decision. Like she still wanted to do it, and unfortunately, because of me, I took that away from her, and I feel really bad even to this day. And I told them that like it's all me. Like it had nothing to do with her. It had nothing to do with her faith. It was all me. So I made it very clear that it was just on me. Because I didn't want them and anyone else to look at her differently.
Yeah.
So I just made it a strong point that it was just me, and it's true. Because when the husband chooses to step down from pastoral staff, the wife has to follow.
Yeah.
You don't ever see where the wife stays in the church, and the husband is no longer a pastoral staff. As far as I know, I've never seen it. I don't know that now, but
Well,
um,
same thing happened to Mitch, except he moved away after, didn't stay in Oklahoma.
oh, okay. Yeah. See, yeah, I mean, it's different. Yeah. I guess it's different now where every side's different. But anyways, I separated, I got my own place. And then, 2023 is when I stepped away. I was going to say fall away, but
Fell
I
away.
just, yeah, according to everyone, I fell away. I stepped away. I just decided to leave the church because I had to keep home worship, right? I had to keep home worship for a reason. I was going out, and I partying, meeting people. I was being, sexually immoral, what they would say.
Worldly.
And so, yep, being worldly. So I told this to Eddie, and he was like, you know, well, you know what this means. And I'm like, yeah, I have to keep home worship, right? That was the first thing he said after I told him, you know, um, I have to keep home worship, you know. And so I had to keep home worship. And literally that day, I get a text from like a couple of members. They're like, "Hey, what happened? Like, you got removed from all the chats."
They removed
Literally
you,
that way. Yeah. No, no. Eddie moved me. Yeah, because I was involved in so many
so
chats.
he just
Because
kicked you out of all of
again,
them.
hmm
Dang.
yep. Because I was involved in so many chats, like leadership chats, multimedia chats, and whatnot. I had my the access to the media email, Gmail revoked, you know?
I'm
So
surprised you didn't get
I,
promoted.
right? So
Just kidding.
I, I got a couple, texts from members like, "Hey, what's happened?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't," and I just told them, "I don't know." So I had to keep home worship, and I did it for a month and a half. But at that time, members don't know what's going on. They think I've just completely stopped going, right? So I I kept home worship. So obviously by this point, I'm already burnt out.
You're done.
I'm done. I've mentally checked out, but I'm just keeping it just because that's what we're supposed to do. And then after a month and a half, I'm sitting there in my suit,
In your home
watching
alone.
a Korean guy in alone, a Korean guy giving a sermon. And I'm like, what the heck am I doing? This is nothing about this is holy, doesn't feel holy. It doesn't feel reverent. It doesn't feel
It's
sacred.
almost silly. It's just like silly.
Yeah, like that's like it reminded me of like how it was when we were keeping worship service during COVID. Like we at least we were keeping it in the church,
So it felt
But I
churchy.
could only imagine it felt churchy. I could only imagine what it was like
Like
for
with
you guys.
kids and stuff, we're just like in a bedroom all dressed
Yeah,
up, and I'm like sitting on like my little girl's chair, and I'm just like in a suit at like 5 in the morning for 5 a.m.s and stuff. And I'm wearing, and
like did you feel any like feeling of
it
holiness
was
or
bizarre. It was the
it was
weirdest
just weird,
time.
huh?
And I remember one time we had a speaker, and it had a radio function, and so we're listening to the sermon and stuff. And one time, like my middle daughter was like, at that time she was just barely two because she was born 2019, and she turned on the speaker, and kid you not, like it went from new songs to like Limp Biscuit. And so you had like roll and roll and roll, and it was loud because we're playing new songs, and it just goes straight into Limp Biscuit. She starts crying because it scared her. And I'm just like, so no, it did not feel holy.
Right? I could only imagine what it
Yeah.
was like all around the world, all the brothers and
It's
sisters
silly.
keeping home worship in their bedroom while we're here keeping worship
The
service
Zoom
in like
calls and
the
PJs, Zoom
yeah,
educations wearing
exactly.
PJs.
Yeah. So after a month and a half, I just stopped texting Eric because he became my group leader. Um,
You used to live with Derek, right? Before he went to the church?
when I moved here, my wife and I moved in together with him and his wife,
That's right.
and we were roommates. So that's why I'm very close to Eric. He's one of my best friends, and um, yeah, you and him hung out.
All the
We went
time.
and grabbed something to eat. But yeah, after it, so this was in May 2023 that I stopped keeping worship service and I stopped texting Eric,
The
that I was keeping
times.
service because you know how you have to
Report your
keep
times.
yeah, so I just stopped doing that. And basically, like I said from the very beginning, I quietly removed myself from this organization and I just lived my life and was just, I didn't do any research. I didn't do anything until I started watching videos on playing in traffic podcasts and watching videos in great light. And then you reach out to me and then,
Got the ball rolling.
yep, you got the ball rolling. And then all of a sudden I just hear this mass exodus of members leaving. When I heard Eric was leaving, I was like, that is insane because he's got a lot of family in it. And when I heard that he left, I was like, that's crazy. And then everyone started leaving and it was just crazy. So when that was earlier this year, right? Or the beginning of
Yeah, it all happened
2025.
in 2025. Yeah.
And then that's when I started hearing a lot more things. That's when I started really going into the rabbit hole. Um, and that's just kind of was like, that this is it for me. This is real. This is, and I just heard things from now that I was speaking to you and more and like Eric and, other people. They were starting to tell me what was spoken about me when I left the church. And, like I was told, um, you know, the overseer, he outed me, he shared with a member that I'm gay. So, you know, I left not for that reason. I left because I was already burnt out and I was keeping worship service and I felt nothing from it. So I left. But the overseer saying, "Oh, I left because I was gay." Well, that's not true. Yeah, I am gay, but that's not the reason why I left. So it's just it goes back to the point that I mentioned earlier where how when you're in a position of leadership or authority, you feel like you can just say whatever you want. And that's another thing that really irked me and it didn't sit well with me was my friend who preached to me, my overseer, was the one that outed me to a member,
And then it
right?
spread like wildfire when, when you're in
Hmm.
those kind of roles as like an overseer, pastor, whatever the case is, like there's confidentiality agreements. Just like
Exactly.
you try to make us all shut up about the organization, right? You want us to fall in line? Well, you got to do it too on your end. If something is told
Exactly.
with if something is told to you in confidentiality, and that's why it pisses me off about the letters to mother, right? Like
Oh
all
yeah.
these people sending all this blackmail that could be used as blackmail to who knows who reads it, right? I've heard from multiple sources that overseers have said that they read it or have access to it at least. And it's
Yeah.
like that sense of confidentiality, this church does not care about your confidentiality. They
Not at
have
all.
no they have no qualms like just releasing
Exposing you.
all this confidential information about you. Like if the overseers can access letters to mother, if you're going to an overseer in confidence saying this is what I'm going through, this is what's happening to me, whatever the case is, that needs to like there has to be a level of trust and confidentiality agreements. And the fact that they can
It's
do
non-existent.
is bizarre. And it's just you call yourself the truth, you call yourself the greatest church on earth, but yet someone comes to you in a vulnerable state and tells you something that is very personal about themselves that is and they're trusting you with confidentiality and you go and out them and
Yeah.
let this be a warning to all the other WMSCOG members watching this, whether a leader or whatever. Like you think it happened to Quincy, it's not going to happen to you. I mean, do you really think that it won't happen to you? So I just want to say the next time you go to an overseer's office, and trust me, I've been there too, going to the overseer's office, weeping, repenting of my sins, being like, I'm the worst, whatever, in trust, in confidentiality, right? Just to have it be used against you later as some form of blackmail or rumor or whatever the case is. Just seriously, just a warning for the other WMSCOG members who are hearing this. You think it's confidentiality? Okay, well, just wait till you piss somebody off. Let's see how confidential it is after that.
Hmm.
Or if it can be leverage for something, see how quick that confidentiality dissolves. Sorry, that
Yeah.
just got me worked up
No,
a little bit.
no, you're good. No, you're good. Yeah, it's, nothing is kept private. That trust is gone. Um, and yeah, so that's what he did. He outed me, and then it started hearing people telling me like, "Oh yeah, like there's this rumor that you left because you're gay." Like, no, I left because I was burnt out. Yes, I'm gay, but I left because I was burnt
Well, it's how
out.
they treated you.
I, yeah, yeah. It was just I was just overworked. Um, and so yeah, just like yeah, this overseer, he just did so many things that just like it's like why? Like that's and yeah, like he didn't have any it's funny, like the way he didn't even say he was like, "Oh, you want to know why Quincy doesn't come? Oh, Deaconess, tell him why." So he had his wife tell him.
Yep,
It didn't even come from his mouth. He said, "Oh, Deaconess, why don't you tell Quincy why?" And then, she
they use mouthpieces.
explained. Yep, right.
You
So
didn't
the
hear it
fact
from
that
me, you heard it from someone else. So I
yeah,
didn't say anything. Give me a freaking
exactly.
break.
So he couldn't even say it himself. He had to have his own wife say it, and he couldn't even say to the member, "Hey, let's let's go behind closed doors and then I'll tell you." No, he just did it. He was in the kitchen. It was him, his wife, the deaconess, and then the member that asked, like, "Oh, why, you know, where's Quincy?" So they didn't go behind closed doors. It was just out in the open. I don't know who was around, who else was around, but that's that's what they said. And it's just really disrespectful and it's just
Yeah,
yeah, it's
the two things, right? Number one, it's not why you left. And number two, that is a confidential,
Mhm.
conversation that you had that you thought would be kept that way. Because as an overseer, you're trusted with sensitive information.
So Yeah, that was it. That was the end of, you know, when I this happened in the beginning of 2024, and yet did I still come and speak out? Nope, I just sat here, listened in silence, knowing all of this was going on in the church, people speaking about me. Um, and then yeah, and then I've just finally decided to speak out because I just felt there's just too it takes a lot to not speak out, you know?
At this point, this place is falling, dude.
Yeah.
And if the members can't see the writing on the wall, I don't know what else to show them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like 50 people have left Salt Lake City Zion in this year. That's unprecedented.
That's
You
crazy.
can't pull the whole God is with us. We'll never fail. Well, why did 50 people leave in 2025? Right? Why
Mhm.
do you have to shuffle in people from California to fill the spots? Right? Like WMSCOG members, seriously, wake up. Like, this is just not a good place. And, I know I've been kind of railing on the overseers, but it's like, I get it. You're a victim too. But if I'm not strong and like brazen with you, you're not going to wake up because you think you're invincible. You're not. You think you're the smartest people ever. You're not. You think you're holier than thou. You're not. And if, again, I can prove it to you if you come on the channel. And we are more than happy to have you on and talk this out man to man instead of having your internet mission go out and troll in the comments and do your bidding or whatever the case is. But like, Quincy, like, especially you WMSCOG members, like, Quincy, I guess Salt Lake City members and some California members. Anyway, that's not the point. Like, you guys know Quincy. Like, he is the same Quincy, right? The same well-to-do, just like super chill. And I know because I've hung out with Quincy both in the cult and out of the cult. The only difference, he doesn't say God bless you and have a fake Korean accent anymore. That's the only difference. Like, he doesn't try to, you know, impose his, and I don't think that was ever really part of your, because I could tell when you were trying to impose your will on people because you had to. It was really uncomfortable for you.
Mhm. Yeah.
But Quincy is still the same chill person that's just wouldn't hurt a fly, just keeps to himself, doesn't hang out with us as much as I'd like, but but you know what I mean? Like, guys, this is the same Quincy. Like, I'm the same Adam, you know? We're the same people. And what we're doing is we're trying to let you realize that this place is not what it seems to be.
Mm,
This place is not what you think it is because we've seen the other side. And we're trying to tell you what it is, right? And again, it's not up to me to make you leave or get you to leave. That's not my goal. It's not Quincy's goal to get you to leave or make you leave either. But what you should owe yourself is hear both sides of the story. Hear both sides of the story. What is wrong with that?
mm.
Right? Like,
That was that was one thing I wanted to say, you know, with me when I left, right? I didn't do any research. I just left. I left not because of doctrinal reasons at all. So there's I think that there's like two types of people that leave. There's the people that leave for doctrinal reasons, like, oh, Passover is not the truth, Sabbath is not the truth. And then there are those people who just leave because they're burnt out and also like heart and then treatment. I was the latter. I was burnt out and then just like what I experienced just being overworked. That's why I left. I didn't leave because I didn't believe in the Passover. I left still, believing the Passover, the Sabbath day, and God the Father, God the Mother. I didn't do any research until like full deep research until 2024. So I left May 2023. A year and a half, I didn't do like the full deep dive research. I mean, 7, 8 months after I left, I was starting to just watch the videos and hear the stories. But at that time I was only watching the videos that focus more on like how they were treated.
Right.
There's like the videos on like Great Light Studios or on Edgar's channel, diffusing the WMSCOG. He goes more into, and even yours now, more into like the doctrinal discrepancies.
Yeah.
I had no interest in those. No offense, like those are really good, by the way.
You already
um
said it.
yeah.
No coming back from that.
Yeah, but I was more into just like how, like hearing people's stories and how it's treated,
Yeah.
because that's the reason why I left.
You can relate
So
to it.
exactly, they were more relatable. So from, late 2023 until um pretty much the beginning of 2025, I had only just been listening to just those type of interviews. But it wasn't until you and then everyone leaving Salt Lake is when I really, really started getting into a deep dive. And that is when I finally had confidence that the decision that I made to leave was the correct decision. So for a year and a half, or how,
Oh,
two, wait,
yeah.
2 years?
Basically
Yeah,
like
let's
two
say two
years.
years. I was living my life thinking, did I make the right decision? But it wasn't until I finally did research and heard both sides with evidence, with documents, hearing everything. And then I was like, oh, okay, I did make the right decision.
Woo!
Yeah. Now I have confidence in the decision that I made. And that's what I want to emphasize with members who have left or members who are thinking about leaving. And you're on the fence thinking, is this the right decision? Right? You're not going to have confidence in that decision, whether you decide to stay in or whether you decided to leave. You're not going to have confidence in whatever decision you make unless you do research and hear both sides of the story, right? Because you can't make a decision just by hearing one side and say that's a valid, well-informed decision, because that's impossible. In like, I was thinking of an example, like in a court of law, there's a jury, they have to give a verdict. They have to make the decision, guilty or not guilty. But do they make that decision just by hearing like the arguments of the prosecutors,
Nope, you got the
or only
defendant.
hearing the arguments of the
You got
defendants?
both.
They have to have both, right? If the jury came up with a verdict and they only heard one side, then you're going to be like, how is that
That's not
even valid?
justice.
How is that yeah, exactly. How is that a well-informed verdict?
But yet
Like you didn't hear both
but yet
sides.
you're willing to
So
devote your life to something, your money, your time, all the memories you could have with your family, friends, wife, kids, whatever the case is, but you're only going to hear one side. Like,
exactly.
if you are indeed the truth, then it doesn't matter what we show you, it doesn't matter what the research is, it will lead you back to the truth. That's the functionality of the truth. That's the functionality of facts.
Hmm.
If what you are is, if the WMSCOG is true and there's facts to prove that it's true, it doesn't matter the amount of research that you're going to do, you will come back to it. Then why is it that people that don't do research, or sorry, why is it that people who do research never come back?
It's because they can make a well-informed decision.
And when they
The
do, they don't pick
WMSCOG,
WMSCOG.
yeah, right? It's the WMSCOG, they expect us to make a decision, or they expect us to have faith based on only the the documents and the information that's provided by them. And then they tell us, don't don't look at what's outside on the internet. Just listen to this, and then you can decide, is it the truth or not?
Seriously.
That's exactly
Like,
what they're doing. It's like as if the prosecutors are telling the jury, "Hey, listen to our argument, and then don't listen to what the defendants have to say. So now, what's your
just
verdict?"
trust us, bro.
That's exactly what they expect us to do, and
And we do it.
that's
I mean, you did it for 13 years. I did it for
yeah.
almost 10 years. I mean, it works, but
When you choose to just only hear one side of the story, it's impossible for you to leave. But once you do both, you do research on both sides, then, like I said, you can make a well-informed decision, and then you can be confident in decision, whether that's to stay in or whether that's to leave.
yeah,
But now that I finally did my research with the help of you and, watching Edgar's videos and, talking to other members, now I'm like, oh, okay, I did make the right
you're at
decision.
peace.
Yes, I'm at peace. Exactly.
And that's the
So,
peace I want desperately for everybody in there, regardless of how you feel about me. I mean, they probably see me, there's fire coming out my eyes and horns on my head or something at this point. But that's all I want. I want you guys to have peace. I want you guys to have truth. I want you guys to have facts, both sides.
yeah,
And my whole thing is I don't care what you believe in. I really don't. I don't care. Like, of course, I'm a Christian, but that's the path that I have come down to. That's the path I have chosen to follow. Um, but at the end of the day, like, I don't care if you believe in Zangyojia. I really don't. I don't care if you believe in Ansang Hong. I don't care if you keep the Sabbath, the Passover, all these things. Just quit demonizing people who don't
yeah,
agree with you. Quit fear mongering people and saying they're going to go to hell if they deviate from your pre approved narrative. Quit, shunning people who disagree with your beliefs. Quit demonizing people who leave because they've found better and bigger things other than your lies and your deception and manipulation. Like, that's the thing I'm fighting. I don't care. Like, again, I don't care if you believe in God the Mother. I don't care if you believe in Ansang Ho. I don't care if you believe in Kim Ji Chol, whatever. I don't care. Quit calling yourself the truth, the fulfillment of Christianity, and demonizing everybody else. If ex members air out your laundry, take it like on the chin, like a man, and be like, yeah, we screwed up. Take accountability, have transparency, have decency, treat your members properly, quit exploiting them and extorting them, in my opinion, so I don't get sued. But, like that's what I'm fighting, guys. I could care less who you worship, right? Of course, if I had my way, yeah, I would recommend worshiping Jesus, but at the same time, like, I'm not in control of you. I'm not in control of your beliefs or whatever, nor do I pretend to be like someone we know. Anyway, point is, like, you need to make your own informed decision because I feel like a lot of people there, they are just so indoctrinated, they can't see the forest through the trees. And that's what I'm trying to help people understand.
yeah.
Don't care what your belief structure is, what you believe in. It's the tactics, it's the manipulation, the deception, the exploitation. That's what drives me nuts. And that's why I can't shut up about it.
Hmm. Yeah. It's just kind of a never-ending vicious cycle, and that's what they're gonna keep doing. Um,
Yeah.
you know, it's yeah, like I said, just do your research and make a well-informed decision. That's the only way you're gonna feel confident that you did make the right decision to leave.
Yeah, man.
Don't do what I did. Don't wait 2 years to do a deep dive into why this place is not what it seems to be. Um, you know, like, yeah, because I was just so focused on the information that was provided to us. Um, something, it all fell apart for me when I heard about the prophecy of King David. Now, the thing is, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks into after being baptized, I did go online, and just to see what this church was about. And then I saw people were saying, "Oh, this is a cult. On Sung Hong is a cult leader and whatnot." But the thing is, even though I was only 3 weeks into this church, I was anchored into my faith, and the reason was because of the prophecy of King David. That is, I will tell you, that is the study that anchored me down throughout my whole entire life of faith until I did the research earlier this year. Um, because with that prophecy of King David, only one person can unseal the truth. Only the root of David
Yep.
can unseal the scroll and reveal all truths. There has to be, right? Because all salvation, all of mankind's salvation is dependent on this one prophetical figure,
100%.
and that is the root of David.
Yeah.
And on Sungong, he brought back the Sabbath day, the Passover, all that stuff, right? But doing that, doing, the research with what you provided, how it's all just taken from different books, different denominations. It just started kind of falling apart. But what really, really made it fall apart for me was the prophecy of King David didn't even come from An Sung Ho, but it originated from Unsoin,
Yeah.
and how the original prophecy was from 1951 to 1988,
Yeah.
and how it was shifted by the WMSCOG to be from 1948 to 1985. And when I started hearing those years and how An Hong kind of took that prophecy for himself because it sounded really good, that was like, that's it. The one study that anchored me into this organization that still made me think this could possibly be the truth fell apart that instant.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is not the truth. This is this is
Nothing.
not it. I mean, I already had, I already was already leaning towards, not it being the truth,
But you
but
wanted to be
this was like
sure.
the final nail in the coffin for me.
Yeah.
When that study fell apart, I was like, okay, I'm done.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So there's just, when you do your research, things start to fall apart and you start to see the cracks, and everything is just coming apart. And like, yeah, it's crazy. Like how, on Edgar's channel, Diffusing the Whimsicog, how there was a video about David Koresh.
Yeah.
He's the leader of the Branch
So
Davidian, and how
similar.
he he didn't write the book, but it was from one of like the founders of that church. They wrote a book called Behold Thy Mother, and how on the cover it says Galatians 4:26. I'm
Yeah.
like, how this is insane. So you just, the cracks just start they just become wider and wider, and everything falls apart.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening right
And I
now.
think people get scared, right? They're like, well, if my whole house crumbles, then what do I do? I'm
Mhm,
at rock bottom. Well, rock bottom is a good foundation to build again.
mhm,
Would you rather have a house built on lies or a house built on the facts that you're in control
mhm.
and that you can build the house how you see fit without an overlord designing it and forcing you into it, right? Like
Right,
just because everything crumbles and you're left with nothing, bare, rock bottom is a firm foundation to build on, but at least now you're in control of what you can do and how you build and how fast you build and what you build with. So it's
right.
not a bad thing, it's not a scary thing, but I will say it is a painful thing. And unfortunately, there is some pain that comes with that freedom. And I think for some people the pain, they realize it will be too much, and so therefore they forego freedom because they
Mm,
know that that pain is going to come and it's going to hurt and they don't want to go through it, so they just continue living the lie, doing the motions. And there's some like you and I that just were like, well, we're going to take the pain and blow through it. And then we come out and then we make our life better, start building a new foundation, start building on that foundation, building a new house, building a new life. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. It's going to come with pain and it's going to come with sorrow and tears. And yeah, it's not easy, but there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Even though it doesn't seem like there is always light at the end of the tunnel and it will get better. It will get better.
yeah.
So we're already almost at 2 hours and 30 minutes. um,
Sorry, Adam.
it's all good, man. This is awesome. I live for this. So
Yeah,
let me give you just a few more minutes, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes. Just
yeah.
address some Sulik members, address some WMSCOG members. Just get like heart to heart, talk to them. Like, what do you got to say to them personally?
Um, as I mentioned before, you know, I am sorry for those who I disrespected. I'm when you're in that position, there's no excuse. This is not an excuse, but it's just, you're just so indoctrinated, and you think that you can just speak to members however you think is right because you think it's under the authority of God and that it's okay. So I really do want to um, apologize to those members who are, no longer in, but even to those who are still in. I never, it wasn't my intention to hurt you. And like I said, just, I know it takes a lot, but just do your research, listen to both sides, and make a well informed decision, because that's the only way you're gonna feel confident in leaving this organization. Don't do what I did by putting it off for 2 years, but just um just go in. Like Adam said, it's gonna hurt. Truth hurts, right? So just go in and do your research. And I wish you the best, and I hope that when you get out, we can reconnect, and then just be, good friends, and then just talk about it. I think it's a lot easier now for members to come out because there's so many more people out now, and there's so many avenues to hear the stories, through the YouTube channels, through the, podcasts or whatever. Um, but yeah, it's not the end of the world. You think that you're going out into this desolate wasteland where no one is there to support you, but there's actually a lot more people um here than you think to support you.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Coming out and we'll have a barbecue like we did last year.
Yeah,
Let's have
for
a
sure.
barbecue. It was good. Good times, man.
Good times.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Quincy, for coming on and for
Yeah, thanks for having me.
telling your story.
Now now you can stop bugging me.
We'll
No, just kidding.
we'll get to that
I don't
later.
know, who knows? Maybe there's a lot of things I didn't say, so who
Yeah,
knows?
maybe maybe I can bug you for a part two here in the
Part
next.
2. Yeah.
But yeah, so this is Find the Alternative. This is Deacon Quincy. Again, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your time. And as always, like, share, and subscribe and do all that stuff, especially the 67% that haven't yet. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and God bless.